Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special Halloween season closer look video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a couple of records that were quite important to me as a young lad, fostering an interest in all things spooky. Namely, Walt Disney's chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house, and Alfred Hitchcock presents Ghost Stories for Young People. So, two treats from the long-lost days of vinyl, today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. So we'll start off with this one, Walt Disney Studios' chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house. Now there was two editions of this released. This is the 1979 edition. There was another one put out in 1964, which looked like this. I never had this one. Now, sadly, neither of these has been re-released on CD or in any other form. You can find rips of them on YouTube and whatnot, however, and if you search around, you can probably find the original records as well. I did take a peek on Amazon, and it looks like they're available fairly inexpensively. So, if you've got a turntable, which I know a lot of people do have turntables again these days, the big resurgence of interest in vinyl, you can probably find this fairly easily. I'll see if I can find some Amazon links for you, and you can find those in the description. I'll also find some YouTube links for you so you can give them a listen. So this one here, in listening to the 1964 version as well, just to kind of compare, I was curious as to the difference. I gotta say, honestly, I hugely prefer this one. And the reason I prefer this one is the 1964 one is geared more towards younger listeners, I guess. It has just spooky enough narration accompanying it that kind of tells you little stories and takes you on these little journeys. Whereas this one, however, is straight up sound effects and ambience, and that's it. The only clue you have as to the environments that it's giving you an auditory soundscape of are the descriptions on the back. And honestly, that's all you need. Because I have to say, even now, listening to this now, I'm absolutely blown away by the quality of these horrifying auditory soundscapes. I mean, they really do take you on a journey, and they really are quite scary if you set the mood correctly. Now, as I said, this is from 1979, which was from Disney's so-called dark period. And you can really tell, because I'm not surprised that this hasn't been re-released, because this is genuinely terrifying stuff. You know, really engages the imagination, so you can really hear horrible things happening to people and visualize it quite vividly in your mind's eye. Now, I should also mention on the back here, it gives you little tidbits, really nothing more than a title to indicate what each environment is on each track of the record. On side one is full environments of sounds that they've put together. It's very elaborately mixed soundscapes that are just amazing, really, really well done. And it very much takes you on a journey. You start with night creatures, so you're out in the forest and you hear things all around you. The wind picks up and you make your way to a haunted house, and you go into the haunted house, and there's all these crazy things going on. This isn't the fun song and dance haunted mansion. No. This is a good and proper haunted house that once you enter, you are not making it out alive. It is terrifying. And then you make your way down to the dungeon, and there's all kinds of horrible torture devices and whatnot being implemented down there. And then you meet up with some witches, and, they're working on some witches brew and stuff. There's an encounter in the fog where there's very clearly something stalking you on a foggy night. One of my favorites, A Grave Matter, which is basically this this guy, grave robber, digging up a grave and getting far more than he bargained for. And then finally it ends up with the mad scientist laboratory, which, if you're a fan of Frankenstein like me, I don't really need to describe that one too much to you, but it's a lot of fun. So this whole thing, this whole side of the record just takes you on this journey into all the deepest, darkest tropes of Halloween and the horror genre, and it's absolutely wonderful. Side 2 is primarily individual sound effects. So if you want to do your own mix with those sound effects, you can. A lot of Halloween horror tapes and such and horror CDs are like that, where they'll have mixed environments and then they'll have individual sound effects that you can put together however you like. And then finally it ends with haunting music, which is just basically some, creepy organ music and outer spacey weirdness and stuff like that. And I love this warning on the back. It says, "Warning, this album will scare your socks off. Parental guidance suggested." Now I have to say, I listened to this so many times as a kid, and this was very much a part of the formation of my love of horror and my love of Halloween. This was a huge, huge thing in my childhood, and I've always cherished this. I couldn't even hazard a guess how much I listened to this. I would just put it on to listen, and then, I usually side one, because I liked the fully mixed environments. And then I just put the needle back at the start and play it again, put the needle back at the start and play it again. The entire album only runs about 17 minutes. It's not very long, but it's 17 of the most deliciously horrifying minutes you've ever treated your ears to. So at the very least, click on that YouTube link afterwards and give it a listen. Make sure you're in the dark, make sure you're all alone, and there's nobody around to bother you. Just close your eyes and let it take you on a journey. You won't be disappointed. Now, I also wanted to mention on the back here, in addition to the little short snippets that give you a hint as to what the environment is, they also have quotes, some of which are from Edgar Allan Poe. One of them is from Dracula. Some are from Shakespeare. There's one from Sherlock Holmes. And these little quotes were, for me, my introduction to a lot of these great authors and story characters. So even that, just those little snippets, gave me a hint of a larger world of classic horror out there that I, as a child, had yet to experience, but this fostered a curiosity about them. So let's read you the quotes here. So under night creatures, we have, "Listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make." Dracula, of course. Under the haunted house, "With the first glimpse of the building, the sense of insufferable gloom pervaded my spirit." Edgar Allan Poe. Then we have the dungeon. "Of the dungeons there had been strange things narrated, too ghastly to repeat." Edgar Allan Poe again. The witches. What else could you have for the witches? "Double, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble." William Shakespeare. Encounter in the fog. This is wonderful. "It is murder, Watson. Cold-blooded, deliberate murder." Sherlock Holmes, of course. Then we have a grave matter, a.k.a. the grave robbers. Although if you listen to it, it sounds like there's only one grave robber there. Very determined to unearth that coffin. And we have, "By the prickling of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes." William Shakespeare. I think that's a typo, actually. It's supposed to be "by the pricking of my thumbs," if I'm not mistaken. And I also noticed they misspelled cauldron in the Shakespeare quote. And finally, mad scientist laboratory. What else could it be? "I collected the instruments of life around me." Dr. Victor Frankenstein. Yeah, so needless to say, you got to check this out. This is fantastic. I love this album so much. And I really wish it would get some kind of a CD release or something. But in the meantime, I have a couple of different rips of it that I can at least enjoy in the absence of a record player. Okay, so the second one, not as hugely influential, but certainly enjoyable. This was my introduction to Alfred Hitchcock. I hadn't seen any of his films because I was just a child. We have Alfred Hitchcock Presents Ghost Stories for Young People. Alfred Hitchcock just loved to scare people, and I think he really was keen on the idea of introducing children to the fun of being scared at a young age. And this album is wonderful because it presents a series of just scary enough ghost stories that kids can enjoy, and I certainly did. I really like this one a lot. I honestly don't have too much to say about this one because it's pretty much what it says on the tin. Alfred Hitchcock doesn't read all the stories to you, he just introduces them. It's much like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, the TV series, but in audio form. So he does the introductions for the stories, and then they're actually read by a fellow by the name of John Allen. And he's quite good. He does a very good job of reading the stories. There was one particular story on here called Johnny Takes a Dare, which was probably my favorite of the bunch. And it was about this little boy who took a dare from his friends to go into this dilapidated old house. And he goes in, and then a squirrel shows up and just kind of looks at him, and then a second squirrel shows up and is looking at him, and Johnny's just kind of sitting there like, what's going on? Why are they staring at me? So then one of the squirrels speaks to the other and says, well, what do we do with him? And the other squirrel answers, I don't know. Let's wait till Charlie comes. He'll know what to do. And then another squirrel shows up, even bigger than the second one, and looks at Johnny, looks at the other squirrel. And each time one of the squirrels appears, they talk to each other by name. So they're saying, oh, hi, John. Hi, Mike. Hi, Clarence. And you're waiting to see, well, which one's Charlie? And each successive squirrel that shows up is bigger and bigger and bigger until you get like squirrels that are the size of a horse, squirrels that are the size of an elephant. And you're waiting. It's like, and none of them are Charlie. Like, where is? It's like waiting for Godot for kids, But in the form of this kid who's taken this dare, and he's encountering all of these squirrels that are successively larger and larger, and it just gets more and more uncomfortable. But it's just a fun story, and the rest of them are very much in that vein. They just kind of got this sort of strangeness to them that is fun, a little bit scary if you're a kid, but also kind of charming in their own way. So I don't know that this one has been re-released either. I'll look around. If I can find an Amazon link for you, I'll post it in the description. If not, I'll see if I can at least find a YouTube link so you can give it a listen and enjoy it yourself and with any young ones you might know. So yeah, so long and the short of it, these two were very influential records in my childhood, and I'm glad to still have them in the collection here. This one in particular, I gotta say, was also influential in terms of my collecting, because I loved this so much, and the whole idea of it, creating these soundscapes of horror environments and just, telling a story in the form of sound, that it later influenced me to start collecting Halloween horror tapes. Yes, those tapes you would get at Walmart or what have you that would be 30 minutes of spooky sound effects. Now, that said, I amassed quite a collection of them over the years, and some are better than others. Some of them I'd say were pretty close to being on par with this, especially some of the more recent ones I've managed to get my hands on, but others are less so, shall we say, but they all have their own unique charm. But as for the tapes, we'll look at those next time, because there's quite a few to go through. And the other thing that this helped to foster an interest in was audio drama, radio plays, and things like that. Because this essentially introduced me to the concept of telling a story strictly through sound. I mean, beyond where I had like records that were the story of a movie, for me that was different, because it was just a way of having the movie in some form before the days of home video. Whereas this was something that only existed in audio and took you on that journey purely in audio form. So that was really interesting to me, and that really got the wheels turning. So I started listening to radio drama and old radio plays and stuff, things like The Shadow and Jack Benny and Suspense and stuff like that. But, as I say, it also kicked off a whole other side to my collecting, namely that of Halloween horror tapes. But we'll start going through those next time. It's going to be over the course of the next couple of closer looks, because there's tapes, which I collected throughout the 90s, and then, of course, CDs, which I collected through the later 90s and into the 2000s. So that'll be the next couple of closer looks, leading us almost right up to Halloween. So hope you'll tune in for that and enjoy. Alrighty, well, that is it from me to you for now, folks. So hope you enjoyed this little nostalgic look at a couple of important records from my childhood. And I'll see you next time. Until then, thanks for watching. Big thanks to my Patreon sponsors. Be sure to catch me on Twitch. I stream just about every day. And I'll see you next time. Until then, sayonara. That was a pretty good video. Hi, Cass. How's it going? This is a surprise. It's Cass, everybody. My brother, Cass, some of you may know as Toonman 1984, and yeah. So, how's it going? What brings you to the show today, right now, specifically?
Alfred Hitchcock's Ghost Stories for Young People.
Yeah, that's great. It's Ghost Stories, hosted by the master himself. It's great stuff. I was just showing this record that I thought people might enjoy a look at for Halloween.
What's the other record there, Sean?
Other record? What other record?
The other record behind Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, you must mean...
I knew it!
Damn it! Yeah. Oh, you know this record?
Yes, I do. Perhaps you'd like to tell the viewers how I know this.
Yeah. I kind of forgot to mention something in the video earlier. When I was a moody teenager many moons ago, Cass was quite young and, liked to come in and...
3 years old.
And always wanted to play with his big brother. And sometimes, after a rough day at school, I just didn't want to be bothered by my 3-year-old brother. So, simply telling him to go away, I guess I figured wasn't enough. So I came up with the idea to scare him away. So one of the sound effects on the record is sound effects of a thunderstorm. So I would put the thunderstorm on to scare him out of my room and leave me, the moody teenager, alone. And it worked really well.
Until I dispatched Mom on you.
Yes. So the what happened with Mom? I don't remember that part of the story. I just remember being really happy because it worked.
He would get about his 30 seconds of bliss, and then Mom would come marching down the stairs and he'd probably demand you apologize to me or something, or just generally ream you out for scaring away the 3-year-old out of your room by playing noises of the things he was absolutely petrified by.
Yes. So I was, being the selfish teenager that I was, essentially adding to his already existing fear of thunderstorms by using this to scare him out of the room.
I'm sure he had nothing to do with the fact that I remained scared of thunderstorms until I was about 10.
Yes, nothing at all. I totally don't remember you cowering in fear on the couch at the slightest hint of dark clouds in the sky, unable to move, petrified with fear. I don't think it was any relation to that at all.
I didn't even like it when it rained, because I knew rain could potentially lead to a thunderstorm.
Yep. So that was the other way that I got a lot of use out of this record as a young lad. Yeah. And of course, having the record on already, I would usually just end up listening to the whole thing because I really enjoyed it.
My brother, ladies and gentlemen, this is my family.
Yeah, I was an asshole when I was a teenager.
And beyond that, apparently. It was an ice cream cone, not a spaceship.
I thought we already dealt with that. Have some spiders.
Ah!